So we will end neuroanatomy by talking about the neural pathway. The neural pathway is basically how the information is exchanged between the brain and spinal cord, or the brain and the rest of the body. So we will talk first about the different types of pathways, and then narrow it down to specific pathways that we will talk about. The neural path consists of two types of information. Those that are coming to the brain, so from the body to the brain, those are called sensory. They're also known as ascending because they're ascending to the brain. And motor, also known as descending. These are information that go from the brain to the spinal cord and the rest of the body. So motor and sensory, or descending and ascending. Within the motor, you have two types of pathways, voluntary and involuntary. Voluntary, also known as pyramidal pathways. Involuntary, also known as extrapyramidal pathways. We are going to focus on the voluntary. The voluntary consists of two pathways, corticospinal and corticobulbar. Corticospinal is information going from the brain to the rest of the body, to the spinal cord and the rest of the body. So that's why it's called cortico, from the cortex of the brain to the spinal cord. And there's also corticobulbar, which means from the brain to the cranial nerves. We will not talk about this, we will focus on the corticospinal. Within the corticospinal there are two pathways, lateral and anterior. So you can say lateral corticospinal pathway or anterior corticospinal pathway. Our focus will be on lateral corticospinal pathway. Within the sensory or ascending pathway, there are actually two groups of pathways. One is called spinothalamic, meaning from spinal cord to the thalamus, but it's actually even beyond thalamus to the cortex of the brain, spinothalamic. And then the other one is the cuneate and gracial pathway. The cuneate and gracial pathways are exact same thing in terms of their purpose. The only difference is that if you look at the body, so there is a human body, and at the level of T6, okay, T6, so you remember T6 from when we talked about the vertebral column, from T6 and up, all this information is brought to the brain by the cuneate pathway, and from T6 down, from here downward, by the gracial pathway. Okay, cuneate does not actually bring information from the head. Okay, the cuneate is only mainly from C1 to T6, so it's at the level of the neck to the chest, because the head, the information from the head comes by the cranial nerves. What's the difference between spinothalamic and cuneate and gracial is the type of information they bring to the brain. Spinothalamic is for pain, pressure, temperature, and coarse touch. Cuneate and gracial are for vibration, fine touch, and proprioception. Proprioception means knowing the position of your body parts in space, of your limbs, for example, in space and with respect to each other.